Now, I have a very special guest in the studio this afternoon, Cameron Buchanan, MSP. Now, welcome to the show, Cameron.
Thank you very much.
I apologise that we're looking over various pieces of equipment to talk to each other, but such is the vagaries of the life of a community broadcaster here. But welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Well, you seem like a really cheery soul. Your history is you've had some illnesses. You've been a textile entrepreneur. Can we call you a textile millionaire or entrepreneur?
No, you definitely can't call me millionaire.
But entrepreneur. What else have you done in your life through the years?
Quite a lot. I've had about 20 jobs, which I can talk about half a dozen of them.
Give me the most interesting.
Disc jockey.
Disc jockey.
Worked selling the Bibles for the Vatican when I lived in Italy. Ski guide. What else have I done? In textiles, that's probably the most interesting one. So I've done other things like which everybody else has, other ordinary jobs, and been involved in politics as well.
So how did you end up selling Bibles to the Vatican?
Because I lived in Italy and I was down and out and slightly poor, and I lived in Italy and didn't really know how to earn any money. So there was this company that Pope John the 23rd said that he wanted everybody to have Bibles, and there was an American marketing company that produced these Bibles, and we had to sell them on the streets, like these people who annoy you on Princess Street and everything else trying to sell you stuff. And that's what I did. And I got arrested a couple of times going up and down stairs because you're not allowed to go up in buildings. You're meant to sort of knock on the bells, and so it was quite useful for canvassing. So I got into it quite quickly.
Did you put that on your resume when you applied to be an MSP?
No, I didn't. I'm confessing it only on community radio.
Oh, no, you heard it here first, folks.
That's it.
Now, I asked Cameron to choose a couple of tracks of his favourite tracks. I think we'll put one on now, which is Steve Harley's Cockney Rebel, Make Me Smile. Why did you choose that one?
It's one because it's one of my favourite tracks. I've heard Steve Harley twice, and it means it's my sort of attitude, make me smile. I love making people smile, or at least I like it. And it's a very happy song, as all of them are, so that's why I just love it. I
get a kind of kick from the tracks that our guests choose. Yeah. Like we had the local police inspector in a while back, John Dryden, and he chose The Who, which I thought is great for a police inspector to live with the Regals. But here's Steve Harley and Cockney Rebel, Make Me Smile. Steve Harley and Cockney Rebel and Make Me Smile. The choice of my guest this afternoon, live in the studio, Cameron Buchanan. Cameron, I'm going to ask you the one question. I always ask each politician who comes in at least one slightly awkward question, and I'm really kind with politicians, as my regular listeners will know, and I don't lay into them or set traps or any of those good things. But your awkward question is, as a Conservative MSP, why there's so few elected representatives of the Conservative Party in Scotland?
I think because years ago we were tainted with being very English, which is not particularly true, but also I think most of the reason was because of Thatcherism, and people just didn't relate to Thatcher, which is a shame because she was actually very good. There are a few MSPs, one MP, we've got one MP hoping to get more, and we'll have some more MSPs eventually, and we benefited from the system of having, if you like, constituency MSP rather than just directly, selected rather than elected. But I think there are a few. It's a pity because we need a centre-right party, whether we're Conservative or not. We need the balance in Scotland, and we don't have it.
Can I ask a very basic question? What exactly do the Conservative Party stand for in terms, not necessarily specifics, but if you look at sort of more left-wing politicians, they tend to want to care for people. What's the ethos behind the Conservative Party?
Well, the Conservatives had a reputation for caring for people, but I think one of the reasons that there are few Conservatives is because the rise of the SNP. We used to have 22 MPs in the 50s, and when the SNP rose up, they took a lot of our right support, because the SNP is essentially a protest party, left and right, and they took a lot of our membership as well. So I think realistically that we've got... our policies are very difficult to quantify. I mean, they're all on all sides. We've got a bit of a dichotomy over Europe at the moment because of, we want a referendum. Some people do, some people don't. So our policies, it's very difficult to explain what they are most of the time.
Once they come to power, and I remember this from my economics teacher when I learned economics for, it'll be highs here, but A-levels in in England, he said to us, and I've always sort of remembered this. This was the days of, giving my age away, but Harold Wilson and Ted Heath, I think it was back then. And he was saying, well, it doesn't really matter which party gets in, because actually they have to basically follow the same policy when it comes down to according to the conditions of the day. How true is that? At the end of the day, what the parties actually do is very similar whether they're left or right, because circumstances prescribe certain things.
I don't think that's particularly true. I think a party will make a difference in the first year or two of government. After that, they sort of amorphise a bit, and I think they make a big difference and they can put in their own policies. But not every party will do that. That's why we don't have extremism in Britain in the sense of in power. I don't think so. But I think that, let me just answer that another way. I feel that if we're going to have power, and the party, someone like Harold Wilson, who's arguably pretty middle of the road, Tony Blair was sort of middle of the road as far as people are concerned. If you're very right-wing like Thatcher was, but she wasn't as right-wing as people thought. She cared for people. The Conservatives had a reputation for caring, and we still have. We do care about people, and we are the party of, aspiring entrepreneurs.
Can I talk a bit now about your personal background? There's a lot on the internet about, well, there's a certain amount on the internet about you, but there's very little about you as a man, except for one thing, which is the fact that you had a brain tumour fairly recently, really.
Yeah, just over 3.5 years ago, I woke up one morning. I was going to travel abroad. I was due to go to Finland on business. And I woke up one morning with I suppose the rugby players would call a dead leg. And it got worse during the day. And then my arm went dead, and I thought, gosh, it was. And my son Alex said, you better come to the hospital and go to the hospital or go to the doctor and see what it is. And I went to the doctor, and he said, I'll take you straight to the Western General. And I had a sort of a scan, and they said, no, you've got a small tumour in the brain, which was a big surprise to me and a shock.
How does something like that impact on your life?
It was quite a shock, because it impacted on my life quite badly, because it stopped me travelling, it stopped my business. I couldn't work at the time because I was obviously forbidden to fly at the time. But fortunately with Edinburgh's got great care and great hospitals. I was treated pretty quickly with steroids, with chemotherapy and radiotherapy. But it does impact. It impacts on you mentally, because after that I had chemotherapy and radiotherapy, and I had a bit of a relapse. I was in the Western General for a few weeks, and Ashley Ainsley, because I got paralysed down the whole of the left side. So, and it's impacted on me because of my movement. And I found that I couldn't really do my textile business like I used to. I used to travel all around Europe, speaking the languages of the countries that I was in, etc., etc. And I found it very difficult to, you don't lie awake thinking, you just lie awake thinking, I'm going to get better. It makes you more determined.
Does it make you evaluate your life a little bit?
It did, yes, of course it does. I stopped sort of eating crazy meals and driving through the night to get from A to B across Europe, and I suppose it calms you down a bit by force. When you're lying in a hospital bed, having never been in hospital really before, it certainly changes your attitude to life. And I got very grateful to friends. I couldn't understand the sort of outpouring from friends and everything as to why why they were so sympathetic to me. And I had a lot of visitors and everything, and I began to sort of, yes, it does change your attitude. It changed mine anyway, and I stopped acting quite so frenetically.
Now, you touched on it very briefly there. You actually speak 5 languages, I believe.
That's right, yeah.
Go and list them for us.
English.
Oh, that's cheating, yeah.
French.
Yeah.
German, Italian, Spanish.
That's probably all the romance languages.
That's me.
Are you a secret romantic at heart?
Oh, definitely. Absolutely, definitely.
We'll talk more with my guest, Cameron Buchanan, Conservative MSP, after your second choice, which is Dire Straits and Brothers in Arms. So why did you choose that one?
Because I love Dire Straits. I've been to see them, and Mark Knopfler was absolutely brilliant. And it was just this nice reflective track. There are other ones I like. There's many others that I could list from Dire Straits, but this was one because it's the last track on his album. And I just think it's a very small, slow track, which is lovely. And when I was in hospital, I'll just say briefly, when I was in hospital, it was one of the tracks that friends lent me the CD of this, and it was one of the tracks that I sort of rather evocative.
I always remember hearing Dire Straits for the first time was on my brother's record player. It was a live recording, and I think Mark Knopfler says, they don't like you to dance around here, but if you all get up and dance, there ain't nothing they can do about it. Yeah. Dire Straits and Brothers in Arms on Crystal FM. My guest this afternoon is Cameron Buchanan, Conservative MSP. And Cameron, you've worked in the textile industry, would be where you're claiming you didn't make millions. My theory is you probably did. Looking at you, look like a successful entrepreneur. But what led you into that particular avenue?
It's all a front, the success, don't worry.
That's what all the conservatives said is what.
What led me into it was because I went to Paris University and I spoke languages, and there was looking for somebody who could travel abroad for this company. My father was chairman of it at the time, rather than
that would
boss.
Probably be quite handy then.
Well, yes, it's often who you know rather than what you know, and from my point of view, it's because I spoke languages, and they were desperate for somebody to travel and speak languages. Actually, what happened apparently was the Italian agent had left, taking his mistress with him, and shut up the shop, and I had to go and find him, and because I was living in Italy at the time, but not doing very much, one of my myriad of jobs, I decided that I would come back and work in this company in Edinburgh, which is where I'm from. So I came back to work in Edinburgh for this company called George Harrison Company, woolen merchants, and from then on the rest was history. I just carried on because I enjoyed it, and I was able to travel as export manager and then became managing director.
Do you sometimes feel that a lot of times the people who are part of the Conservative Party or vote Tory have a background that's closer to yours than, say, your average working man?
Yes, I found it a great help in Parliament having a business background. I certainly have. I haven't found it very disadvantageous at all. And a business background means you sort of tend to make decisions slightly quicker. And I think I found, a lot of the Conservatives have got a business, but a lot of them, many people haven't. But my type of business is different from most of the others because it's international. It's been international, traveling all over the world. Japan, I led trade missions in Japan and to the States and all over, really.
So what is it about textiles that fascinates you?
Quality. It's tactile. I don't like dealing in a sort of a subject that's up in the air. I like dealing with something that you can touch and feel, and it's very Scottish as well. I mean, Scotland's a leader in textiles, and a world leader in textiles. It really is, and we need to protect this heritage. Inexpensive textiles: cashmere, tweed, Harris tweed, tartan. People just think of tartan as Scottish, but I mean Harris tweed, other tweeds, and there's still many, many mills going in Scotland, although we don't think there are. People don't think there are. But it's quality, really. That's what I like about it.
Well, we'll have a listen to another track chosen by you, which is ELO, All Over the World. What fascinates you about that one?
I just love ELO, and it is all over the world where I travelled, so it was.
Let's take a listen. CLO all over the world. My guest this afternoon is Cameron Buchanan. The weather today, well, I haven't looked out the window recently, but I don't think there's any sunshine there right now, but it's a high of 12, low of 7. It says it's supposed to be sunny right now. Thursday, sunny periods, high of 10, low of 1, and Friday, high of 11, low of 2. Supposed to be pretty nice on Friday, though, so pretty good. Cameron, what do you do for fun?
Well, I used to do a lot of sport, skiing, very, very keen on skiing, golf and tennis. I can't do much of it now. I can play golf a bit, but I can't ski. I haven't skied recently, and I can't certainly play tennis. So what I do for fun, I read, go out for nice meals, but I mean, I do relax and do different things and meet people. But I haven't really, since I've been ill, I found it rather difficult because sport was my main activity. Ran marathons and things like that. So I go to concerts and things, and theatre.
Are you a family man?
Yes, very much so. I've got 4 lovely children and a starving wife at home. Actually, no, she's a teacher, so she's a teacher. So, yes, I am a family man.
Is she the one who straightens you out?
Yes, she does. She was on the phone just before I came here saying, oh, gosh, what are you doing here and why are you coming here and what are you... So, yes, she does straighten me out of it. So, tries to anyway.
Can I ask you a little bit about your own personal philosophy of life? Obviously, you've had your sort of illness and so on. What sort of motivates you behind? I mean, we all live a kind of material life, obviously, and we have to go out and earn our daily bread. But is there a kind of philosophy or way that you look at life that's unique to you, or how do you see life?
I don't think it's unique, but I actually like helping people and being of help, which is why I'm quite interested in politics, because politics is about helping people and trying to solve problems. So my philosophy in life is really to help people, I think it is. It sounds a bit sort of do-goodish, but I actually enjoy being with people, helping them and solving their problems if I can. I don't have sort of a disposition that... I'm very optimistic in my disposition, my attitude, and that's my philosophy, I think. I always try and see the best in people, try not to. I never criticise people if I can help it, and always say to people, always try and bring out the best, and say to people who've got the best in them, even if they're. And I went to a prison once only, and was very depressed by it, because the people there seemed to have no hope. There was absolutely no hope that they had. I've always had hope, even when I was lying in bed ill. So.
Do you have a religious disposition, or is it more just a philosophy?
No, it is a religious disposition. I am quite religious, although I'm Church of Scotland, but my mother was Episcopalian, and I went to a Catholic pre-prep school, so I suppose I do have yes, I go to church every now and again, but I do have a religious disposition, yes. I certainly believe in God.
It's something you inherited rather than...
Yes, I think so. But, I mean, when you go to a school, we went to chapel every day. We had chapel every day at school when I went to a boarding school, and so it became like a rote, really, or a rite. So, yes, I'm fairly religious in a understated way. I don't sort of preach. I don't sort of get up and preach.
You sound like you have a little bit of a background like me, because I went to a school where they made me go to chapel, but they made us hand in cards to show that we'd been there, which I thought was...
Oh, they did that at my school too. It's like a communion card you had handed out. We had to hand in cards to show we attended chapel.
Yeah, we
went
did
out.
that.
Oh, that's funny.
Possibly I shouldn't give this away, but I think the statute of limitations has expired on this one. We used to hand in our cards and just not bother not going in. But
well, I remember we used to go to chapel. We used to have to put something in the collection. If you had nothing, you just take out your collar stud because it made a ping when you took it out.
You must have gone to boarding school. I
did.
Yeah.
I did go to boarding school. Yes.
Are you going to tell us some of the mischief that you got up to there?
Well, no, I was beaten a few times because I didn't sort of. In those days, if you didn't abide by the rules, you got beaten, and I had to be very careful because I was not the best behaved person. I was always trying to sort of mix around and do different things, and trying to if there were shackles, I tried to break them up a bit and that sort of thing. We had a chapel at school, and if it was very boring in chapel, a whole lot of us climbed up to the bell tower, which was totally forbidden sort of thing, and then. When they found out we'd done that, they locked us in the bell tower, and which wasn't much fun. And then they let us out after about half an hour, and that cooled my ardour.
I think that
we got beaten.
Pretty much beatings had more or less disappeared by the time I went to school. But that's quite an interesting issue now, because that's all illegal now, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I'm not saying I'm for it or against it in that respect. It is illegal now. I was going to add that when I was in Paris. I took part in some student demonstrations because I was there in 1968 during the événement, as they called it, and they had a wonderful way of cooling the ardour there. They used to take you, when we were in the demonstration, I can't remember what we were demonstrating against, it didn't really matter, we were just students, so we were just in the street, and they took you out in one of these sort of big vans, salad shakers, 22 kilometres outside Paris, and dumped you at 4 o'clock in the morning. You stopped demonstrating after that because by the time we got back, you were exhausted. So it was quite a good way of doing it, but not beaten.
I probably shouldn't recount my stories from my early childhood, but my old man used to do that. He used to take me to the middle of this golf course. I wasn't behaving, leave me there and make me walk home.
Yes.
We'll talk more to Cameron Buchanan after Brotherhood of Man and Figaro. It's Brotherhood of Man and Figaro. My guest this afternoon is Cameron Buchanan, Conservative MSP. Cameron, what next for you? You just became an MSP, I think, last year. Am I correct about that?
Yes, correctly. I took over from David McCletchie, who sadly passed away. So I did the same thing that I had. And I took over. I did know him very well. He was a good friend. And he asked if I would take over from him. So I did. I just did in September last year.
Now, what's next for you? Are you going to sort of seek office within the Conservative Party, maybe lead it? Or you were the vice... Am I right in saying you were the vice chairman of the Conservative Party?
That's right. In Scotland, which is from the voluntary position. It wasn't paid or anything to vice chairman for 2 or 3 years. I sort of served my time in the Conservative, working my way up. I really stood as a European candidate, which is what I wanted to be in Europe with my languages and my knowledge of the continent. But that wasn't to be because we had a very good number one in Struan Stevenson, and we were really only room for one Conservative. We were only 6 MEPs in Scotland, sadly.
Are there particular causes that you espouse now that you are an MSP? What really inspires you and turns you on in terms of what you can do for people here?
Well, I think I'm in the committees I'm on about 3 or 4 because the Tories were so few, so we're on 2 or 3 committees. And I found them quite difficult at first, with standards and procedures, which is quite interesting, the local government and regeneration committee, which works very well. And I think that has inspired me a bit, because I got to know about local government, community councils, and that's what I found of great interest. and I go to the community council meetings if I can, and I think it's grassroots. If you like, it's grassroots politics, which I find very, very rewarding.
Cameron, thank you so much for coming in this afternoon. I have to say, with all the politicians that have been in, certainly here in Scotland, everyone seems very down to earth and just straightforward. Obviously all the politicians have a different point of view, but I can confirm that to everyone out there that all our politicians are everyday folk and down to earth folk. I'm actually been, for all the parties, quite impressed. Now, if people need your help, you do surgeries and things like that, right?
Yes, that's right.
Do you have details of that?
Well, I do surgeries, but I'm a regional MSP, therefore the surgeries are mostly done by the constituency MSPs. But I do surgeries. I've done a couple already. I'm doing one because I've got Midlothian, going to Bathgate in a month's time, and other places. So I don't have details of them particularly, but I mean, I do the surgery. We put an advertisement in the local papers for surgeries to see if we can help people and they come along. But a lot of people come to the Parliament because it's a very friendly Parliament and we're very open for people turning up and coming to it. So that's good, unlike Westminster.
I'm tempted to say, would you show us round if we show up there? But I won't push that on your.
No, you can push it. It's fine. Yeah. We do show people.
So
around.
Anybody who contacts you can get a
and people do, yes, and they do contact us. We showed massive school children around, a whole lot of other people all the time. People are coming in all the time. It is a sort of a people's parliament in a way. Very friendly, as we say. All the other MSPs were very welcoming to me when I came in, and they realised that I didn't have the experience that some of they did, so it's been very good. And we show people around all the time.
I have to say, it's refreshing that you're so straightforward when you know something. You said if you don't know something, which I appreciate. And say, really, pretty much all our political representatives has been like that and pretty straightforward with us. I mean, I haven't been pressuring anyone in this round of interviews in any case. Cameron, thank you so much for coming in. We're going to go out with your choice again, which is the Beach Boys and God Only Knows. Why did you choose that one?
Another one I listened to in hospital, and I just thought it was very evocative, and God did know sort of thing, so that was really why.
And actually, just before we go, you've got a charity to do with...
the Brain Tumor Trust,
yeah.
That's right, which I'm obviously very active in, and we've had a couple of fundraising events to try and raise money, because particularly for children, the thing called Head Smart campaign, because children's tumours used to take an awful long time to be diagnosed, and they're now trying to raise money to... if you operate on a child quickly, you can save them for life, sort of thing. If you leave it too long, they've gone. And I was very lucky, and I bless my luck all the time.
My guest this afternoon was Cameron Buchanan, Conservative MSP.